mentoring, and they started taking the JRE, the job related education at Trident Technical College, and yes, they were getting paid. Next slide. The first year when we put the program together, we met with the manufacturers who really were our champions, and we said, how do you want this program to look, and what do you want the kids to achieve? And that first year, we put together the industrial mechanic program, and at the end of the 2-year program, because all of our youth apprenticeships are 2 years long, they actually achieved a high school diploma or GED. They also get a certificate from Trident Technical College, and industrial mechanics was the first year. But actually, everything is transferable to an associate degree if they continue their education after high school. They also get a national credential from the United States Department of Labor if they achieve competency, which is extremely important. And they have 2 years of work experience. Now, we don't guarantee any sort of employment after the apprenticeship program, but if the kids are finishing the apprenticeship programs, they're staying on board, because as you recall, we're only doing in-demand jobs. We're doing this for the employers, and we're only doing it for the jobs that they need. And in Charleston, if you're an industrial mechanic, you can get a job anywhere. Next slide, please. As you can see from this slide, and actually the young man who is sitting there with the older man with the beard, that is a real apprentice. That is a young man who started the apprenticeship program and completed it, and he completed a machining program. He can make airplane parts very well. But as you can see, that first year we started with one pathway, which was industrial mechanics, and we had 6 companies and 13 apprentices. Then what happened, which was sort of strange for us, is I started getting calls from other industries. Charleston obviously is a tourism town, and we're a hospitality town. And I got calls from these employers that said, you know, if you're doing this for manufacturing, why can't you do it for our industry? And I said, I can do this for your industry. Are you going to hire a 16-year-old young person? And they sort of paused, and I laughed because I get that a lot. And I said, if you're willing to do that and you're willing to mentor them, I'll be more than happy to put this together for you. So really, the second year, we ended up having 7 different pathways in 3 different industries. It was hospitality, tourism, manufacturing, and IT. And as you can see, we had 30 companies involved. In the third year, we had 9 different pathways with 48 companies and 74 youth apprentices. And actually, in this year, we actually have 16 different pathways in 9 industry sectors and 120 plus companies who are participating in this. So we're giving kids in the Charleston region an option of going and getting an education and getting the skill. Next slide. These are the industry sectors that we're focusing on. We have air conditioning and heating. In Charleston, South Carolina, if you can actually fix an air conditioner, you can make a lot of money because no one wants to be in Charleston without air conditioning. A good top paid HVAC mechanic in Charleston can make 6 figures. We also do manufacturing. We're doing 2 different occupations there. We just started the automotive program where kids are learning how to become automotive mechanics. We have CAD design programs, computer programming, and as you can see the list, we actually have 2 pre-law enforcement apprentices this year that we just started where kids are learning how to become police officers. Next slide. And here are the 16 different sectors that we're currently involved in, where we have young people in high school who are employed at some of the largest employers like Boeing, but we also have a lot of small employers. Next slide.
This is Kathy again. It had been a personal goal of mine for quite some time for VR to have a youth apprentice. So I'm so happy to report that on August 8th, there were 2 VR clients that became apprentices at the Charleston Regional Youth Apprenticeship Signing Day. One of our VR apprentices just graduated from high school in May, and he is doing a computer networking apprenticeship. And the other individual just entered her senior year, and she is a CNA pre-nursing apprentice. And one of the things about the Youth Apprenticeship Signing Day, I wish everyone could experience There's so much electricity in the room, and it's so exciting because the Youth Apprenticeship Signing Day is modeled after National Signing Day, where high school student athletes sign their national letters of intent to colleges or universities to play a sport. So I think that was a great marketing tool that the Charleston Regional Apprenticeship developed. Everyone in the area, is aware of the signing day and what it means. Next slide. So when looking at developing a registered apprenticeship, a good first step is finding out who oversees apprenticeship programs in your state or your local areas and conducting outreach to them for assistance. I was fortunate in the aspect that we already had a good relationship in existence with Apprenticeship Carolina, who oversees the apprenticeship programs in our state, as well as the good local relationship with Trident Technical College. So I cannot stress enough the power in partnerships. Just know that you don't have to be in this journey alone. So for me, it was really easy. The apprenticeship programs were already in place. It was just me getting the word out. So present the opportunities to your staff and your clients, and do that throughout the year. Our counselors have a lot of information that is shared with them on various projects and programs and opportunities. So it can be overwhelming at times keeping, up with it all. So yearly, I have Mitch come out and speak to staff about the program, and I'm constantly reminding them about this wonderful opportunity so that it stays fresh in their minds. As well, I have Mitch or a member of this team present the programs to our VR clients during activities such as Summer Institute and Disability Mentoring Days. For example, last year for Disability Mentoring Day, our Charleston VR office focused on the hospitality industry because that's a focus sector in our region. And students toured a world-class luxury hotel in downtown Charleston, and they got to learn about all the different career opportunities there and the work environment to include the benefits and demands of the industry. So at the end of the tour, I had a representative from Trident Tech's apprenticeship office there to share information on the culinary arts and the hotel operations apprenticeship programs. So the students could tie it all together and see that there was an opportunity for them to get the skills to go into this career field. The next step for us was really identifying and preparing our candidates. And that's where it's a team approach. The counselors assisted with identifying the clients, and our clients went through job preparedness classes to include workplace etiquette, resume writing, and interviewing skills. And as part of the apprenticeship application packet, the candidates must provide a resume and cover letter. So we wanted to make sure that we were there to help our candidates with that process. And also, we wanted to make sure that they were prepared if they got an interview with an employer. As I mentioned earlier, my goal was to have one VR apprentice. And I know sometimes we can get so focused around numbers. So I think it's important to focus on quality and not quantity. It's okay to start small. I actually think it's better that way because you can ensure that the candidate is prepared so that they're representing him or herself and your agency well, and also that you can make sure that your process is working smoothly. And of course, we know how important contact and communication is. So stay in communication with the candidate, and then if they go on to become an apprentice, as well as your apprenticeship partners, you want to make sure that everyone's happy, and if there is an issue, you can step in and get it resolved. And of course, share those accomplishments. As soon as I learned I had 2 VR apprentices, I was so excited. I sent an email out to the entire staff. I wanted everyone to share in my excitement, and it was really a teamwork approach. So, everyone was excited to see that we had met our goal. Next slide. One of the things that I always get asked is about challenges. And of course, there are some challenges. One of the biggest challenges with the youth apprenticeship program is overcoming that stigma that somehow it's a failure when a young person doesn't go on to get a 4-year degree. And the majority of parents, they want their children to get a degree. So I think parents have to be more educated about apprenticeship programs and learn that it doesn't mean the option of a 4-year degree is being taken away, but that an apprenticeship can actually be a stepping stone to a degree. Another challenge for us was that there's not room in the schedule for students to participate in sports and extracurricular activities if they're still in high school. And for some students, that's a big part of their high school experience. So initially when the program got started, it was just open to rising juniors and seniors. And within the past 2 years, I believe, the program was opened up to recent high school graduates. So that kind of took that obstacle off the table. And apprentices must have reliable transportation in place. So when they're in high school, they're going from their high school classes to the technical college for classes, and then on to their employer for their on-the-job training. Transportation is an issue that we face in general in our area. We need a better public transportation system, and it's an issue that we're working on together as a community. So as my VR youth apprentices just got started, I don't have a true VR success story to share yet. However, I would like to end our presentation by having Mitch share a success story from the Charleston Regional Youth Apprenticeship Program, which shows the impact a youth apprenticeship can make on an individual's life.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. We, the first year of that first group of 13 kids, we had a young lady who was in the Industrial Mechanic Apprenticeship Program. And she was a great student and a great apprentice. She actually got hired at a company called Cummins Turbo Technologies. And I think she was even teased by her grandfather about why she wanted to do industrial mechanics, but she went on to be very successful. But over the course of the 2 years, she graduated from high school. She actually finished the Trident Technical College Industrial Mechanics program. She did receive her national credentials. And at the end of the apprenticeship, she did so well that Cummins Turbo Technologies offered her a full-time job with benefits. After probably about a year and a half to 2 years after she was working full-time, she showed up at my office because she was going to enroll and continue her education, because as you recall, everything transfers to an associate degree if you want to continue your education. She walked in my office with her advisor, and the advisor said, "You need to tell Mr. Hart you know, what's happened." And she's somewhat shy, but she said, "Well, you know, I'm going back to school, and Cummings has agreed to pay for all of my associate degree." And I said, that's wonderful, Shannon," because her name was Shannon Brennan. And she said, she sort of went quiet again, and the advisor said, "Tell him." And I said, "Shannon, what do you need to tell me?" She goes, "Well, I just bought my first house." And I said, "Shannon, how old are you?" And she said, "I'm 19 years old." So really, it shows you the power of not only the apprenticeship, but the power of partnership, the power of mentoring. Shannon was the fourth child and the youngest in her family. And her mother told me at the end of this, she goes, "I don't worry about Shannon. Shannon had an opportunity that my other 3 kids didn't." She goes, she's making more money than my other 3 children, and we're just so proud of her. But it shows you that when a young person is given a roadmap and that person stays on that roadmap and she gets great mentoring, great things can happen.
Thank you, Mitch.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Kathy and Mitch. We now invite questions from the audience. And I do want to remind you that if you would like to present a question, please unmute your phone, or you could put questions into the chat box.
Make questions.
Okay.
Cool, you bet. All right. Come down if you have any questions.
Just to let you folks know, I did just unmute everybody, so if you're not talking and you want to mute yourself, you can, but so now you should be able to ask. And while folks are thinking of questions, we do have one in the chat, Leah. I'm not sure if you saw that one, but I'll just ask it. Somebody wanted a bit more information on the pre-law apprenticeship.
Everything worthwhile. Just one guy like that now and then, a student like that now.
Oh, okay.
I am. Yeah.
I want to remind you that if you're not going to ask a question, if you could mute, that would be very helpful.
Okay, you ready?
So, Kathy or Mitch, do you have any experience with in doing anything related to any pre-law apprenticeship in your area?
We were approached by our local police department, North Charleston Police Department here in Charleston, and they had heard about the youth apprenticeship program, and they wanted to start a pre-law enforcement. We have a criminal justice program at Trident Technical College, and we thought this is great. There was only one problem with the pre-law when we started developing the program is you have to be 21 years old to become a police officer in South Carolina. But we met with the chief of police and we met with some other folks, and we decided that for the pre-law enforcement program, we would only allow 18-year-olds to apply for it. And the way the program is designed is they become a community service officer, actually, and they take dual credit courses in criminal justice. And at the end of the 2-year program, they achieve those 4 accomplishments that I talked about earlier. But then if the police department, they do a good job and the police department keeps them on board, they keep them on board for another 8 months as a community service officer, and then they send them to the police academy. And of course, they become police officers. And we just started this year, and we have 2 young men who are enrolled right now, and they're doing great. So we'll know in 2 years if they become police officers, which we know they will.
All right, thank you very much, Mitch. There's another question that's in the chat box here, and it's any apprenticeships for individuals who are blind or visually impaired, and what are the experiences like for if you have any individuals like that participating in any youth apprenticeship?
This is Kathy. Currently, no, we do not have, we're just getting started here at VR in our process, and neither of the VR apprentices that I have are blind or visually impaired presently.
You know, it's an interesting question, though, because just this week, I was reading in the Charleston paper about a local manufacturer who hires blind people and actually employs them in a manufacturing production process. So I got really excited when I saw that, because I saw that as another opportunity to go meet with them and explain how apprenticeships work. So hopefully, maybe in a year or so, we will have that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mitch and Kathy. Are there any other questions out there that anyone would like to ask?
Yeah, this is Jim Kretschmann. Oops. Go ahead.
Jim, of course, it would be you. This is Wendy Swearingen. I have a quick question, Mitch. It sounds like you're doing some really fabulous work. I'm wondering if you kept track beforehand if you had individuals with disabilities, any disabilities, before you started working with VR, and if you have that data.
No, up until our 2 young people who got into the program, we weren't successfully in placing any applicants with any of our employers. But I can tell you the good news is Kathy and I have known each other for a couple of years, and we've been working on this for a couple of years, and we were so excited when the 2 youth. But also, we have 2 adults, because I run adult apprenticeship programs too, and we've had one young man who's had several interviews, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. Hopefully he gets hired on board one of our hospitality partners. But then we also have a young lady who just interviewed with one of my manufacturers for mechanical engineering technician apprenticeship program, and it's looking good. So we're very excited about the partnership, and not only on the youth side, but also helping adults.
And if I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry, if I'm not mistaken, Georgia does have a DEI project. Nikki, am I wrong there?
No, but they're South Carolina, so they don't have a DEI project.
Okay, I'm just curious. Do you have any kind of indicators that tell you if anybody does have a disability, that you're trying to place them or trying to get them help or trying to refer them to DVR or anything like that prior to putting them into apprenticeships?
That would likely come through our partnership with Trident Technical's Disability Resource Office. That might be how we would become aware. But one of the nice things, too, about this partnership is as Mitch and his staff meet with individuals at the college that are interested in apprenticeship opportunities, they also share information if they think that perhaps the VR could be a resource to the individual. So we're actually getting some referrals from the college as well.
Okay, thank you.
So it's my turn now.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So I thought Kathy did a great job of pointing out what their barriers that they experienced. I think we all share the same barriers. We're working on a program up here in Alaska that's semi-similar, not nearly as far along as y'all are. But I'm wondering when during the day, given that kids don't have a lot of time to participate, are you doing the apprenticeship? Is it an after-school activity? Is it done on spring break? That would help.
Yes to everything. We the way we design it is part-time work, except during the summertime when it's 40 hours a week for that 2.5, 3 month period here in Charleston. But throughout the school year, what we do is, as Kathy was talking about signing day, we have what we call Parent Night in February, where we invite all our employer partners, and kids who have learned about the apprenticeship program can come with their parents and actually learn about, how to apply for the program. And then starting really as early as February and March, we start connecting kids for interviews with the employers. And once they are hired and they get offers, we call their high school and we arrange their schedule. So we are very fortunate here in Charleston to have wonderful relationships with our high schools. All of the principals are extremely supportive, and we actually have 26 high schools in the area. And what we do is we sit down with them. We say, okay, you have to have all their regular classes in the morning because we got a schedule for a couple dual credit courses in the afternoon, a couple days a week, and then they work part-time during the school year. Typically, 10 to 15 hours a week. And then, like I said, it's full-time in the summertime. And in the following year, it's part-time again, not unless they're already at high school. If they're already at a high school, they can work more hours if the employer wants them. But it's sort of what Kathy was talking about on the barriers. We do tell the kids and the parents that if you're the star football player or, the head cheerleader, this program's not for you because we're not working with your schedule. And we're not really being mean. We're basically just saying that we can't change the state of South Carolina's laws as it comes to getting a high school diploma. And, we want to do this because it's changing kids' lives, and it's really helping them achieve the goals and the career goals and actually the education that they're looking for.
Very good. Thank you. We've got some additional questions coming through the chat box here. So I'm going to take a look at those. And Jim, if you want to chime in as well, that'd be great. Here's one for Kathy and Mitch. How do the employers go about selecting apprentices from the available students or candidate pool?
Well, what we do is, they have to fill out an application and they actually do have to create a resume. I do tell my employer partners that there's nothing going to be on it because they're kids. We make them do the resume because, the apprenticeship experience is that. It's an experience. We want them to say that this is how it works in the adult world. But don't worry about telling you have 15 years experience in machining. Just put down that, you're in college first, you're in clubs. They're looking for those character things. But then once they fill out the application and give me the resume, they send it to my office at the college. And then I send it to my employers who review the applications. And then they actually call in the young people. They do allow parents to come also. And they do the interview. We have kids who do group interviews. which is pretty sometimes scary. We have kids who just do one-on-one type interviews. And if the employer decides to hire the individual, they have to make the offer to the young person. The young person has to accept, because we have many kids who get multiple offers from companies. We had one year a young lady who got 3 different offers at 3 of the finest restaurants here in Charleston. And she's like, "Mom, what do I do?" And she goes, "Well, you have to decide." So what the mom did was actually take her out to eat at all 3 restaurants. And then she made her decision for it. But, again, the partnership that we've developed here is a lot of things, but it's about that experience also.
Okay. Thank you, Mitch.
Can I just jump in and ask, on our end, we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, so 2 things. Mitch and Kathy, when you're talking, can you make sure that you're pretty close to your mic so that we are able to hear that? And then a reminder to everybody to please mute your phones if you're not talking, because we are getting some background. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki, for that good reminder. We have some more questions coming in. This is awesome. All right, here's another one. Are there any apprenticeships considered registered apprenticeships to the U.S. Department of Labor? And I'm going to just add on to that a bit. In addition to that, are any of the youth apprentices that are participating in your program bridging to registered apprenticeships?
All of the apprenticeship programs that we have here in Charleston are registered to the United States Department of Labor.
Okay, here's another question. What are some other examples that should be considered for partnerships when creating an apprenticeship program? And the second one is, what are some ways to engage employers or connect with them?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first question. I'll go ahead and answer the second question. I'm very fortunate that my role at Trident Technical College is to meet employers and encourage them to partner with the college and start registered apprenticeship programs. It's what I do 40 hours a week, sometimes even more. And I've been fortunate because I've lived in Charleston for 25 years and I know a lot of people. Really, after we got our first program started, I struggled before Aoife Ratorian called me with getting apprenticeships going, because most people didn't understand what it was. But now with the support of our partners like Vocational Rehab, like Kathy, but we have all of the chambers in Charleston engaged, all the economic developers. I don't even have to go out and engage employers anymore. They call me. So we've been fortunate here in Charleston, but there was a 2 to 3 year period where I struggled because it was individuals didn't know what an apprenticeship was. They wanted the person to have experience before they came to them. And again, now my standard still when I go on and talk with an employer is, we don't have experienced people, but we can show you how to grow your own. And we don't have a problem. We have more opportunities now than we have individuals applying, which is great, which is why we partner with someone like Vocational Rehab. Actually, before our meeting today, I was telling Kathy that I have a manufacturer who is looking for 2 apprentices. And again, that's where the partnership comes into play. I'm sorry, what was the first question again?
Yeah, the first part of that question was, what are some other agencies that should be considered for partnering when creating an apprenticeship program?
As Kathy was saying, the first step really is to call your state representative. Every state, in the United States has a Department of Labor representative. They are key because, they can advise the company on actually how to get registered. We're very fortunate here in South Carolina. In 2007, we had the group called Apprenticeship Carolina developed, where they really serve as an intermediary between the Department of Labor and the companies. So when I go out and talk with a company and convince them to partner with me to start a registered apprenticeship program, I call Apprenticeship Carolina, who comes down. They help the company fill out all the paperwork for the Department of Labor, and then they work with the South Carolina USDOL person, and it's literally registered within a week. It's that quick for us. And Apprenticeship Carolina really is the key. Again, we're just sort of fortunate in that area, but if you don't have an Apprenticeship Carolina, there is a USDOL representative. After that, it's really building that partnership in your community by, talking with with the chambers, talking with the economic developers, talking with the workforce development agencies, and everyone getting on the same page and trying to understand that everyone has a role. You know, I was fortunate to go to Germany in 2014 to look at the German model, because Germany has over 500,000 companies that do apprenticeship programs. And the one thing that I learned when I went to Germany was it is a national partnership where you know, the government and the employers and the chambers all work together to make this partnership to actually grow their workforce. And really what I discovered was over in Germany, the chamber actually is the intermediary. They're the Trident Technical College, just on a much larger scale. But if everyone gets involved in the workforce development process, you can use the apprenticeship as the roadmap to actually keep everyone going in the same direction.
All right, thank you. I know we have some additional questions in the chat box. I just want to check in with Nikki to see how we're doing with time.
I think we're fine. I mean, you know, there's some other stuff we can cut out, that I think this part is more, you know, more valuable because people want to get their questions answered. So we can keep
That's great.
a little bit.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jim, did you want to go ahead and take over at this point, or would you like for me to keep going?
You're doing a great job.
All right, here's another one. And, you know, Mitch, I think you touched on this a little bit, but I just want to make sure that I put this out there. Let's see, how did the German-based company end up knocking on your door? It's usually the other way around. So can you tell us more about how did that all transpire?
Well, honestly, you know, I knock on a lot of doors too. And Eva Ratorian had worked with me on an adult apprenticeship program 2 years prior to that fateful call. So she had my phone number. But ultimately, I'm a salesperson. I'm very proud of that. And I don't mind cold calling. I don't mind walking and working a room. It's what I do. It's what I love. And, you know, it really is easier for me now. But those first couple of years, it was definitely frustrating for me. I couldn't convince anyone to use me. And it was a fairly new department at the college. But our president, who has been with the college for 40 plus years, 25 years as the president, she's a visionary leader. In 2007, when Apprenticeship Carolina was developed by the state, she saw the writing on the wall. And she developed her own department, you know, at Trident Technical College, and said, you know, I want my own boots on the ground. And I do often tell people I have 10 lessons that I've learned on how to get a company to start an apprenticeship program, and there's not really enough time to go over those. But, you know, what I do tell people is you just can't give a presentation in a classroom and have companies start an apprenticeship program. It's boots on the ground, meaning you have to go to their place, you have to explain to them the model, and you have to help them. You know, I actually am military trained, 31 years in the military, 7 active duty, and the rest in the reserves. And, you know, I always use the analogy that, you know, you don't win a war with air power alone. You got to send in the Army. And that's sort of the concept is I give presentations with groups of people, but they always have hundreds of questions afterwards. And if you're not willing to go in there and sit down with them and spend some time, you're not going to get the apprenticeship. And I can tell you, we have a lot of apprenticeships here in Charleston, but every single one of them, either myself or my team, just had to go on there and explain how the process works.
So do we have anybody out there on the phone that wants to chime in? It sounds like we have some folks off of mute. Anybody have questions on the phone? If not, please just as a reminder to mute your phones because we are hearing background noise.
The pretty ones. Oh, here, let me just.
We're still hearing the background noise. If we can mute, that'd be great.
Thanks, boss.
I think I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody so that we can get rid of that, and then I'll unmute you, Leah. And then if folks do have questions, we'll have to use the chat.
All right.
It sounds like maybe it went away. We'll try a bit longer. We'll see.
Okay. All right. So here's a few more questions here. Are the companies that are participating in your youth apprenticeship program, do they have any relationships with the vocational schools in your area?
The answer would be yes, but unfortunately we don't have many vocational schools in the area. We actually have one in Dorchester County, which makes it easier because the high schools partner with us. And we have the equipment, you know, we have the instructors, the expertise, but we do have a vocational school, and they actually do have some apprenticeship programs through that school for the young people. But we've also, you know, we partner with that vocational school and tell them that if the young people, you know, say for example, who are in their CNA program at the vocational school, if they want to apply for the apprenticeship program after they graduate from high school, they can, because if you take our pre-nursing apprenticeship program, you can get directly into the ADM program and finish your degree. And you know, that's a big deal here in Charleston because we have 1,000 people on the waiting list trying to get into our nursing program because we are a healthcare town too. So it's a big deal. And again, going back to, we'll partner with anyone who wants to help a young person or help anyone in general. It's the entire community working together.
So transportation is one of the biggest barriers to employment that a lot of our participants face when trying to find employment. I've seen that transportation is an important factor for an apprenticeship. Are there any resources or any methods that have proven to help with this barrier?
No, to be honest with you, that is probably the #1 barrier. You know, we've addressed it. I've addressed it at the state level, and we've talked to different individuals. But unfortunately, you know, it's a job, you know, and you've got to get to the job and you've got to be there. The employers depending on that. We've had some companies talk about possibly even hiring, you know, picking up kids or even hiring Uber, you know, to actually get kids to the school. But nothing has, you know, ever developed. You know, I can tell you probably, you know, half of the kids have their own cars. The other half have very dedicated parents, is what I tell people. We don't typically have a major problem with the kids who apply because we educate them before we say, look, we understand, you know, you got to be able to get to your employment. You also got to be able to get to your training. But it can change your life. We have the parents, the dedicated parents, though, who are doing it. But we know we could affect more young people, especially the disadvantaged young people who don't have the opportunities that others do, if we could fix that problem. Unfortunately, we haven't come up with a solution yet.
And I just want to add, that's one thing that is another key to success is having the parent support. And we have those conversations with the parents to make sure that they're aware of how the apprenticeship works and the expectations. So they're involved in the process as well.
All right, I think we're going to be able to get through a few more questions here, so we'll be able to have some time for wrap up here. Kathy, I know you mentioned that you talked about a few youth with disabilities from the vocational rehabilitation program. The question was, are there any youth students with disabilities? You did mention there are. Could you share what type of disabilities the individuals that are participating have?
Yes, both individuals have a less severe cognitive disability.
Okay. Are there any students are the students provided any tips, tools, and learning about what the employers are looking for in regards to their apprenticeship, programs prior to the interview? And the other part of that question is, are there any skills or any assessments that they complete during the selection process?
So in regards to the first question, yes, that's where those job preparedness classes that I had mentioned during one of the steps to success is we do workplace etiquette. So they know good and bad behaviors in the workplace, the resume writing, interviewing skills. We do a lot of mock interviews. We actually here in South Carolina also have our work training centers that they can kind of build on some of those soft skills, and we talk about being on time, working well with others, not only their teammates but their supervisors, being productive in the workplace, safety, so all of those good things. We want to make sure that, as I had said earlier, that they're representing themselves well as our agency.
Yeah, and the only assessments really to get into the program is, since these are dual credit courses, they do have to take the college placement test and qualify via those scores. And for our manufacturers, we do take we make them take a mechanical aptitude test. But again, the employers are not expecting a lot. You know, they're looking for those character-based things like, you know, clubs and involvement in school, church, or ROTC. Because, you know, when I go out and give presentations, I usually tell adults that employers look for two things. They look for competency and character. And you know, in the youth program, they're not going to have the competency because they're kids, but they are looking for that character, and they look for certain things. It was interesting. One parent night, we had employers come up to me afterwards, and they were very excited. And their criteria was if a young person and the parent walked up to their table and the parent did all the talking, they didn't want to hire that person. But if a young person went up to the table and reached out his hand and shook their hand and the parent was quiet, they wanted that candidate. It was sort of a funny sort of thing when they mentioned it to me.
Great. Thank you, Mitch and Kathy, for answering a lot of questions. Great questions that came through the chat box and also on the phone earlier. I'm going to turn it over to Dave at this time.
Thank you very much, Lee. I appreciate that. And questions about going forward.
Questions about
what
going
are the
forward.
things that interest you the most? I'm sorry? Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're going to put up some poll questions. Looks like they're coming. There we go. Okay, the first poll question is, what type of information most interests you for the community of practice to be of value to you moving forward? And there are four questions here that you may actually have all four of them be. We didn't put all of the above, but we definitely want to know what is the one area that you personally feel would be the most effective for you going forward. First one being participating in a format similar to today and continuing to have some promising practices come in and have this kind of interactive practice participation, which has been great today. Do we want more of a free-flowing meeting with member questions and member-driven agenda topics, where we're just kind of coming on the line and going forward with whatever direction we happen to want at that time? What other formats do we want to utilize too? Teleconference, group text, Google Groups, Yahoo Groups, video chat. If you could specify ideas that you might have in the chat, or email one of the community of practice planning team members, that would be great too, so we can plan for our next community of practice. Do you have any other ideas? Anything else that you can think of that you want to do? We'll give you guys a chance. If you could go ahead and put that into the poll, but also if you could utilize the group chat so we can get some ideas and specifics on what you're thinking about going forward. And more than anything, you know, whether or not you feel that this presentation and the conversation that we had was valuable to you. We would love that.
Reminder to mute your phones. We still do have a lot of background noise going on. And just to sort of reiterate too what Dave said, you know, this is a community of practice, so we want you as the community to be driving what we're offering down the road. So the more you can tell us, type in the chat or email one of the planning team members, Dave or myself, and our email is going to come up here in a minute, and we will leave that up for a couple of minutes so you can jot that down. So I ended the poll, Dave.
Oh, okay. And was there a lot that came out? I can't see the results, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it looks like the vast majority are looking at sort of a similar thing to today, where we do highlight a practice from another state and then have an interactive discussion and Q&A. And I do realize some people did continue to ask questions in the chat, and so we will look at those and address them and try and get them out to you. We may not have your email though, so if you want us to respond, please type your email in the chat as well, so we've got that.
Yeah, actually, that wouldn't be such a bad idea to create a contact list, an email list, possibly through, if everybody online who's still online right now who wants to participate could send either Nikki or me your email address, your contact information. At least we can have one contact list for most people where we can share information and we can send out a Q&A page on some of the questions that we weren't able to answer.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is we don't have time to go in depth on the community of practice area of the WINTAC website, but up right now is wintac.org, and if you would go in and register and become a part of the community of practice, then we can capture your information that way. You can post questions. So like I said, I don't have time to go step by step on how to do that, but just visit wintac.org and click on the at the top bar, the COP area, and we can capture everything that way. And I'm going to put up contact information. So
and it does look like we have. Oh, sorry. It does look like we have the majority of people who are interested in meeting monthly for the time being. Definitely getting started. That makes a lot of sense. So we'll talk more, and you could also, when you email us, give us some more feedback on the amount of time that you want to put into this. Whether we could have it on a monthly basis, at least for the time being. That would be great.
Okay, and so for those of you still online, you do see mine and Dave's email up here. Please feel free to email us. We can connect with you and give you some more information on how to join the community of practice online at wintac.org. Please sign up that way or type in the chat your email. Somebody's got a suggestion on providing some training on Zoom. That's a good idea. We probably should have gone a little bit more over how to do some things in Zoom. Thanks for that suggestion. Again, thank you so much to Kathy and to Mitchell. It was wonderful to hear about what you're doing. And I'm sure, would you both, I think you both said you'd be open to contact from other states if they wanted to get sort of a deeper dive into how you're handling things. Are you both open to that?
Definitely.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, at this point, we're going to go ahead and end. We have already gone over. So thank you, everybody. It was wonderful contribution, and we'll move forward with more of the same based on your feedback, so that we're responding and being valuable to what it is you're asking us for. So bye, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.